the LG Xboom Go PL7, tuned by Meridian. So I've done a review on this. I compared it to the Motion Plus, came to the conclusion that I think the Motion Plus was the better buy. I did say a lot of negative things about it, mostly based on a lot of hyping up in the marketing, not least tuned by Meridian, a company that's been around for, well, since 1977, 50 years of experience. What would that mean in reality? Well, less than I thought, and I kind of maybe left the impression that there's nothing good to say about it at all. Well, I wanted to see if there's anything good to say about it. I'm going to put it up against two other similar speakers. The Sony XB33, another one that I was a bit underwhelmed with, a bit of a disappointment, but yeah, it's okay. The JBL Charge 4, for me, it's okay. And the Meridian, tuned by Meridian, PL7. Didn't go quite loud enough in flat mode. I called it flat mode, they called it standard mode. And yet you start it up, it comes up in sound boost mode. So I wasn't that keen on sound boost mode, but it was against my pound for pound world champion, the Motion Plus. When it's up against other speakers in its class, maybe for most people, these are the speakers they're going to be thinking about. Motion Plus, for a lot of people, is quite a well-kept secret. So this is the comparison this time around. £110-ish JBL Charge 4, £120-ish Sony XB33. The PL7, you're looking about £139 at the moment. So they look similar, they sound similar in specs, but there are some big differences. For instance, 1.5 kilos, less than a kilo, 1.1 kilos. Now, that is a big difference. When I hold that, that is like holding something substantial. And then I pick up the Charge 4, it feels quite light, and that's also quite reasonable. So these are things you pick up and you don't even think about, oh, that's a bit heavy. You do think that when you pick up the PL7. That extra half kilo, where is it going? Is it some heavy duty magnets? Is this gonna, blow the roof off? Well, I'm not giving away many secrets because I've already done the video. It's not gonna blow your roof off. So where is that half kilo being added in the speaker? Well, maybe it's to do with some lights. When we turn it on, we do get these pretty party lights on the side. You've got to hold the button down and it comes on. And you get these pretty party lights that can be in time with your track. You don't get party lights with a JBL Charge 4. You do get lights on the XB33. Should we turn it on?
Bluetooth connected.
And I've got the lights turned off, have I? I'll turn them on from the back. There is a button for the lights. And indeed, not quite as in your face because it's subtly around the side, but we don't have any lights on the JBL Charge 4. That could mean it's a terrible speaker. Hang on, in the old days we never had lights. Some of them were pretty good. In terms of battery, the Sony XB33 is way behind. Now, whether you go by 3.7 volts or 7.4 volts, overall the battery capacity is well down on the Sony XB33, 5,400 milliamp equivalent. And if it is indeed, as they say, running at 7.4 volts, that's equivalent to just 2,700 milliamps. So I think the under-spec'd battery on the Sony XB33 by today's standards, 7,800 milliamp hours for JBL Charge 4 and the Xboom Go PL7. But rated at, they say, 7.4 volts on the PL7, whereas 3.7 volts on the Charge 4. But I'm learning with the Motion Plus, that's not all it's cracked up to be, because I think it's what hits the amp at the end of the day that matters and not their overall spec, because apparently you can step down, you can step up, and we don't really know what's going on. So the actual battery life at the end of the day, 4 hours 12 minutes on the JBL Charge 4, but 30 minutes before we're going into some sort of a low volume mode on the Sony XB33, but 50 minutes before we go into some sort of low volume mode on the PL7. But similar in what I can get out of in total, 6 hours 4 minutes it will play in total PL7, 6 hours 8 minutes on the XB33, but not at maximum volume by the time it hits that, whereas we do seem to be at maximum volume for the 4 hours 12 minutes on the JBL Charge 4. Charge 4 being the older speaker, it's only Bluetooth 4.2, the others are Bluetooth 5. We do have high-end codec on the LDAC. Whether that'll make any difference at the end of the day, we'll have to see in these comparisons. They all can be paired in stereo. They all have USB-C now. However, in terms of auxiliary, yes Charge 4, yes PL7, no XB33, no auxiliary, all can be used as a power bank, all can be used as a speakerphone, all rated I think at 30 watts, although Sony are these days pretty shy on their specs or for the power ratings. We've got just one large woofer, because it's a mono speaker on the Charge 4, 2 passive radiators, twin woofers, twin passive radiators on the other 2 speakers. In terms of latency, terrible on the JBL Charge 4, up to getting 280 milliseconds, which is unusable. In terms of lip sync for YouTube, the other 2, 100 milliseconds usable, but you will get some slight lip sync issues. I'm going to go straight in. I'm going to say, well, I call it my 50% test. In reality, that means we're in standard mode on the PL7 60%, because I'm volume matching them before I actually start the test. Boost mode, sound boost mode, 46%, 69% on the XB33, 46% on the Charge 4, and then they are about the same volume levels.
Standard mode, PL7, XB33, Charge 4, PL7 with sound boost on. Sounding pretty similar except for basslight sound boost mode. Otherwise, main differences are XB33 has the deepest bass at 50 Hz, Charge 4 has the biggest bass peak, and the PL7 in standard mode not far behind. The big factor is the 9 kHz peak, missing on the others. The Charge 4 has the thinnest bass, although it has the biggest bass peak. XB33 going a bit deeper, but while having a bit more body than the Charge 4, but all in all pretty similar.
I have to say, they do sound pretty similar, except for one exception, and that's sound boost mode on the PL7, which to me sounds terrible. I do see people saying, it sounds exciting. If it sounds exciting to you, you're onto a winner. But for me, sound boost, unusable until I want the extra volume. Sound boost really adds a lot of extra gain. You will go louder in sound boost mode. We'll get on to that. But otherwise, not really usable. I listen in flat mode. Now, it does have a big 9 kilohertz peak on the PL7. And maybe that's what's given it quite an electronic sound to the upper end, to vocals. But they've all got their issues. Charge 4 to me sounds a bit dry, a bit dull. XB33, very forward mids, and that kind of makes it sound a little bit muddy. So they've all got little, so overall they're quite similar. I think for me, I'm kind of getting to like the flat mode on the PL7, but they all have issues, and you're going to like one or the other, but they're still close overall. You've really got to listen hard for those differences. Going to take it up a notch. I call it my 70% test. That means standard mode 76%, boost mode 60%, XB33 83%, yeah, already 83%, and charge 4 63%.
These volumes, PL7 in standard mode, about the same deep bass as the Charge 4. Again, XB33 has the biggest deep bass 50 Hz by 3 decibels. PL7 in standard mode has the biggest bass peak alongside the Charge 4 now, while being a bit more upper bass heavy. Of course, sound boost mode reduces deep bass, but it has some punch at the upper bass.
So again, very similar. The only thing I can say for sure is I'd rather listen to flat mode for equivalent loudness than sound boost mode. But There is a well-tuned peak on the JBL Charge 4, but the bass is thin, but it's definitely there. It's the best, definitely a thump, a punch, but it's quite thin. Not what I would call full or rounded, but it does have the biggest bass peak. It's cleverly engineered, a very narrow band. Both can go quite low. It has the deepest actual bass. If I'm calling, you know, for these speakers, 50 hertz is really pushing it. And indeed, when I say it has the deepest bass at 50 hertz, it's already very rolled off. So if you quite like your bass, you will hear that difference, but you'd have to listen for it because it's quite rolled off compared to the rest of the track. It's not as impressive as it would sound when I say it goes down to 50 hertz. It's a rolled off 50 hertz, but it's not like some people are making a test tone and saying, look, it plays at 20 hertz, which you can never hear. That 50 hertz is hearable, it's listenable, it's measurable, but it's a bit out of sync with the rest of the track. So it's not really going to be a deal breaker. We do have upper bass characteristics to the PL7. In some ways, I'm finding I'm getting a bit more detail now from flat mode, from standard mode. 9 kilohertz is giving it a bit of fizz. And if you can get past the electronic nature, I'm still thinking, if I had to pick up one of these three at the moment, and if it didn't have to go too loud, it would be the PL7. So let's push it a bit more. My 90% test, well, around 90, which means flat mode, standard mode, 100%, but sound boost mode is 69%, XB33 is 96%. Ooh, we're nearly at the top there. That surprised me. 83% on the Charge 4.
Charge 4 holding its own in terms of the bass peak, 17.8 and 70 hertz, followed by the XB33, followed by the PL7 in standard mode, sound boost mode way behind. XB33 actually has a tad more upper bass than the PL7 standard or Charge 4, and again has the most deep bass by 3 decibels at least. But the Charge 4 having similar body now to the XB33, PL7 standard mode, signature 9 kHz boost, cool sound boost mode, no deep bass, by far the most upper bass up by 19 decibels at 160 Hz, out kicking for punch the other 3, but sounding pretty thin and bass light.
Still really similar. It's going to come down to your personal taste, but the main things coming through. Now we're pushing it to 100% in that standard, what I call flat mode. It does sound, you can hear a thinness in it now, and it's quite edgy, but still, I kind of hear more detail. The XB33, well, we've got those prominent mids, although I think it sounds a bit smoother than the Charge 4, which I really can't get past this mono element. And people say, yeah, can't possibly hear that it's mono speaker when you're the drivers that, well, I'm sorry, but that's just not true. I don't care how close they are, there's going to be a phase difference, depending on how close you listen and how astute your hearing is. You may or may not hear. To me, the lack of dual drivers results in a dull sound. If you don't notice that, that's fine. I do. You definitely get a shimmer when you have twin drivers. So with all three, overall, if I had to pick up one and I was going by these comparisons, I would say, for me personally, it's been, I've decided it's the PL7. I thought it was going to be XB33. I want to play it in isolation and think, well, you know, it's a decent enough rounded bass. But actually, there's more detail coming through. It's clearer on the PL7. I am preferring that, even though it's the vocals, the high end is not that natural to me. I can't get past mono on the JBL Charge 4. Can't get past, yeah, it's got a reasonable, decent enough bass, but it's so narrow that it's not rounded and it's not full. But of them all, it's got the biggest bass peak when you talk about where these sort of speakers are going to have their bass peak, you know, around 60, 70 Hertz mark. But if, as I said, in terms of deeper bass, if I take it around 50 Hertz, the XB33 wins every time. It's definitely there. You can definitely hear it, and that may be enough for you to say, well, that's a deal breaker for me. For me, although I like the deep bass, it makes more of a difference not having the detail I think that I get from standard mode on the PL7. So what is maybe the only thing I can say about sound boost mode is it goes louder, and if you want to go past those volumes, you're going to hit sound boost mode. So at maximum volume, maybe sound boost mode becomes the killer feature.
Want you to, I need to know now when you're not around me. Are you happy with her? Are you comfortable if you're not around me? Are you happy with her? Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable? Yeah. Ain't wasting time here in scars, trying to find some closure. Find some closure now. Find some closure. We got it good, let's not stop. I just wanna hold you, wanna hold you, wanna hold you, wanna hold you now. When you're not around me, are you happy with her? Are you comfortable if you're not around me? Are you happy with her? Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable? When you're not around me, are you happy with her? Are you happy with her? If you're not around me, are you happy with her? Are you comfortable when you're not around me? When you're not around me, are you happy with her? Happy with her? Are you comfortable if you're not around me? Are you happy with her? Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable?
Yep, PL7 sound boost mode is the loudest, but it does that by removing most of its deep bass. 50 Hz is 3 dB down on the Sony XB33. Sound boost mode, now the loudest, by about 1.5 decibels from the Sony XB33, but the Sony XB33 has more deep bass. 49 is 3 dB up on the sound boost mode, similar bass peak, and the sound boost mode having more upper bass. You do get more mids on the XB33. JBL Charge 4, again about 1.5 decibels behind the XB33, about 1 decibel down in terms of the bass peak, 7 decibels down in terms of deep bass, and 4 dB down upper bass. Standard mode PL7, still matching the JBL Charge 4 in terms of bass, 6 dB up at 50 Hz, 0.7 dB up in the bass peak 77 Hz, but down on upper bass.
So in reality, yeah, sound boost mode goes the loudest. If you're outside and you're a little bit away from it and you're listening all around, that may be the difference between these speakers for you. But it's not really that listenable in an enjoyable way because it's not that full. You do have that bass cut off, even though it's going louder, but it's the high end that's really going louder, still getting fuller bass from these other speakers because it's more in balance with the rest of the frequency response. Kind of, even at maximum volume, would kind of rather disengage sound boost and listen to it in the flat mode and get a bit more detail and a bit more bass, a bit more balanced. But I've got to say, I was really surprised myself by just how similar these speakers are. You've really got to listen for the differences, even in these straight on A/B comparisons. So ultimate loudness, PL7 will win, but in sound boost mode, which is a bit unpleasant to me. There's something nice about the XB33, and that would be its bass. It is full and rounded, but there's something muddy about it, because the mids seem to swamp the vocals. The Charge 4, it's okay. I've never been a real fan, as I said. I can't get past the mono feature, and the bass isn't that full, so it's pretty V-shaped. It's not ever really been a winner for me. Even as a stereo pair, I found it a little bit boomy. That's just me. Me personally, when I can pick up any of these three speakers, when I was listening to them all to try and understand the differences, I thought it was going to be XB33. Actually, I've enjoyed standard mode the most. Found sound boost mode just too unpleasant to listen to. So for me, the winner of these three speakers is the PL7. I know I was underwhelmed when I first got it, and that's normally on expectations and the pure marketing that they give it. But having listened more now in the standard mode, not the headline feature sound boost mode, I'm hearing positive things about it. There is a decent bottom end, there is some detail, there is some clarity, but there is an electronic nature to the sound, really. There's no perfect speaker. My favourite speaker has been the Motion Plus, but but I still listen to other speakers. It doesn't do everything. I think it's the best for the budget. But of these three, if you're going for the brands, my personal feeling is standard mode on the PL7. And the XB33 doesn't really go that loud either. Actually, none of these three speakers goes as loud as you can possibly go on other speakers. Hope you got something out of my comparison tonight. Thank you for watching.